Hello, and welcome to the 10th episode of the Two Left Feet podcast. My name is Terrence Greer. I'm joined today by my co-host, Francesca Peña.
Hey, y'all.
And we have a very special guest in house today, Mr. Raymond Armant.
Hey guys, how you doing?
Hey,
Happy to be here.
Hey, it's wonderful. I know say Mr. Raymond Armant of Mambo, Orleans, correct?
Mambo, Orleans.
Yeah, and I know you are a On2, Salsa On2 instructor.
Yes.
Yeah,
That's what I've become to be known as.
Okay, and you teach at Dance Quarter Uptown, correct?
Yes, Dance Quarter.
Okay, and born and raised in New Orleans, is that correct, sir?
Yeah, I was born, raised in New Orleans.
Mm-hmm. And you went to LSU?
I went to LSU.
What'd you go to LSU for?
I actually went for architecture.
Okay.
Oh,
all right.
wow.
I did an undergraduate in architecture, and I'm a practicing architect.
Okay,
actually.
sure enough. So I'm curious, what part of New Orleans were you born at?
So I was born in Uptown, but I grew up in New Orleans East.
Okay. I know you were from West Bank, right?
The best bank, baby.
Yeah, it takes an arm and a leg to get people on that side.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I'm curious, what is this side considered then?
I mean, it's the East Bank,
Okay.
but we make it hard on them. So like, I lived downtown for a long time.
Okay.
And a lot of the stores are like really like a 5 to 7 minute drive from downtown. So it's like super close.
Mm-hmm.
But I would literally drive all the way to Metairie to not cross that water.
Okay.
Yes, I don't know what it is about that bridge, but
I'm curious, how long did it take you to get here today? Are you far from us?
I actually got here in like 10 minutes.
Okay, not far at all.
So yeah, I actually live uptown
Okay,
now,
okay.
in Fontainebleau area in Carrollton. So I just hopped on Earhart.
Okay, yeah. I got you. Okay. So I'm curious, this is a dance podcast. How long have you been dancing, sir?
It's hard to calculate numbers. So I guess I started. I remember vividly being December because I was home from LSU on Christmas break. 2004.
Okay.
I was 20 years old.
Oh wow. Okay.
Y'all could do that. Yeah, and figure out how.
I was about the same age. I was 20 years old when I started as well. You started with salsa? What'd you start with?
Salsa.
Okay.
I mean, actually, really back then there wasn't really a presence for a lot of other dances. So really, most of the dancing was salsa and bachata, but there weren't really bachata classes. Bachata was just kind of coming on, in its popularity through some of the groups like Aventura.
Okay.
Like back in early 2000. I mean, like, early to mid 2000s.
I got you.
So people were dancing it. They would play it in the clubs, but it wasn't, to the prominence that it is now.
I'm curious. Who was teaching at that time?
So, a lot of people that you may recognize, some that you may not, because some people have dropped off and stopped from teaching. But my very first class was actually a free class at the what used to be the Loft Hotel on Gravier Street. This is in 2004. Tumpusi Ogden.
Okay.
He was doing a free class there every Thursday back then.
Okay.
And that was my introduction to taking like my very first class.
Was that on 2 or on 1?
On 1.
Okay.
Yeah, primarily back then, almost all the dancers in New Orleans danced on 1.
Okay.
There were a group of people who danced on 2, but they pretty much did it when they traveled away.
Okay.
Not really here in New Orleans. So really all of the classes were basically on 1, and then obviously we have a pretty big presence as far as casino.
Okay. Yeah. I'm curious, what you start with,
I started with bachata.
Okay.
But my first, like the actual group class, I was focused on salsa On2.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, I got you. And I was pretty sure I started on 1. Started on 1. So I'm curious, how'd you get into On2 then?
So it was, I mean, it's kind of like this progression thing. I started dancing on one, pretty much everyone around here danced on one.
Right.
And as I got more and more into it and practicing, I had a really good friend at the time, Nadia, who I used to practice a lot with. I was living in Baton Rouge.
Okay.
So there wasn't really a big, dance scene there back at that time. So we would drive to New Orleans and go to Copacabana, for those who can remember. It doesn't really exist anymore.
You remember that? I don't.
No.
Okay.
Copa on Airline Highway, Copacabana.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's not too far from here then, right?
Yeah.
Because Airline's right
Yeah,
here.
it's like,
okay.
it's like right, about like 5-7 minutes from here. And that used to be the spot to go. So I would actually drive to Hammond. She was living in Hammond. And she would drive us to New Orleans on a Thursday night. And then we would drive back to Hammond, and I would drive back to Baton Rouge.
Okay, that's a long trip. That's dedication, though.
That's a lot of driving. So how long is it from Baton Rouge to Hammond?
It's like 30 minutes.
Okay.
So it wasn't that bad. And then it was like, 35, 40 minutes from Hammond to New Orleans. So it was like we were trying to limit, both of us having to, be in the car and stuff like that. But
that is commitment.
Cool. But yeah, we used to practice and stuff, and she kind of got me into like experiencing my first like Congress.
Okay, yeah.
And then that's where I kind of noticed that there were different styles that people were dancing.
Yeah.
Also had a friend who was at LSU who was pretty prominent down here in New Orleans. He used to dance with Liquid Rhythm back in the day.
We're gonna have him on the show.
And he was like, "Man, y'all should try it. Y'all should try, Dancing On2." And he kind of showed us, what the steps were, but didn't really go into too much about it. So we kind of like learned on our own, really struggling through it, right? So we got the steps, like, and that's, kind of like the simplest form of it, but at that time we didn't really have like the understanding of the composition of the music, and how it kind of resonated with those steps. So we were just kind of doing it, in our vacuum, and it just would feel weird, You just felt like you were off.
Right.
And,
when you come from on one to going on two.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And then, of course, like, your muscle memory. On one, you constantly, like, get back on one.
Trying to relearn it.
So it was very weird how it happened. We just kept working on it. And one day it just clicked. Like, didn't understand why, didn't understand the mechanics of it. It just clicked, and it started to feel right. And it wasn't until much later on that I was able to kind of break down how that happened.
Okay. I'm curious, though, how about the history of Mambo, or On2? If I'm not mistaken, it came from Cuba, right? And it, correct me where I'm wrong.
So, I mean, when you think about On2 is traditionally Mambo, right? So, Mambo is music that kind of developed from basically the Afro-Cuban rhythms from Cuba, specifically son.
Okay, right, yeah.
Was very prominent early 40s, 50s. Made its way, got its popularity in Cuba. There were plenty of musicians from the United States who were traveling to Cuba, and they were hearing these rhythms. And just kind of the progression of that and the mixing of these cultures, kind of through the great migration of musicians from Cuba to the United States, they started playing with all of these jazz musicians, right? And they started mixing the Afro-Cuban son rhythm that's also mixed with that, comes from dancehall, has cha-cha-cha, all these other rhythms, mixed into it. And they started to kind of blend all these together in the jazz format, kind of big band jazz format. And Mambo was kind of born out of that. So when you actually think about Mambo, it's a very, although it's, African, Cuban-based music, its birth is really out of the United States, out of New York.
Okay. So I heard it was from New York. And I heard, I guess, On One more so originated from L.A., is that correct? Or you know about that?
Yeah, and I think it's when you start breaking it down into dances, right? Okay. So, like, at that time, it wasn't, on Dancing On 1, Dancing On 2. It was just you did Mambo, right? Okay. Right? And that was your interpretation of that music. So there were all these different, movements that you would apply to this type of music. And I think what, really kind of evolved is people's like natural response to the music started to mix with formally trained, dancers, kind of incorporating spins and tricks and things like that into the dance, and that's how the dance kind of evolved. And then, kind of much later on, it started to get these different identifications of, okay, dancing on one, which your prominent like motions or your breaks are happening on, really what's the most prominent like kind of sound in music, which you can hear like
exactly, right.
And dancing on two, their interpretation is the response of their steps is their breaks and their big primary movements are in a very subtle portion of the music, and is much more connected to the percussion of the music. So I always say in my class, and I have no clue who to give this credit to. I've heard the quote a long time ago, and I can't remember who actually said it. But they said, if you're dancing on one, you're almost dancing to the music, right, or on top of the music, and dancing on two, you're dancing within the music, right? So it's really just there's no different steps. There's no, primary difference in the dance. They're all the same steps. But it's just what part of the music you're connecting to.
No, I'm curious, what drew you to On2? I assume that's your favorite, or would drew you that over on one?
I would say, I definitely connect a lot more with songs that are kind of traditional mambo that have a very strong percussion. So dancing on two, to me feels a lot more connected to it, right? But I love dancing on one.
Okay.
If there's a song that has a different vibe to it, and it feels like a great on one song, I'm going to dance on one to it, or it just really depends on my partner.
Okay, so true. That determines. I know there are songs that are specifically made for On2. Is that correct?
I don't know that they're necessarily made on two, but I think that I think it's really just how the music's composed. If that percussion is very strong and it carries that kind of traditional mambo rhythm, it just feels more natural and more connected to dancing on that style. You can dance, and like I said, you could dance mambo or on two to a song that percussion is very subdued. Right? But what you have to do is you have to listen for other cues in the music. There's always hints in other instruments that really tie back to that rhythm, right? So I always look at the percussion of the music. It's always there. It's always present. But it may not always be audible, or as clear. Does that make sense?
I think I understand you. I think I do. I'm curious. So you started dancing in the 2000s. At what point did you, transition into teaching? Like, what made that?
So it was a complete accident.
Okay, all right. So how long were you dancing before you started teaching?
So I probably was dancing maybe about 5 years.
Okay. Performing at all, or just?
No. Literally, I had a friend, Tamai Tunur, who lived here in New Orleans, who was teaching a class, and she needed help, assistance teaching. She's like, hey, I like dancing with you. I think you be a great help for this class. And I was like, I don't know. I don't know that I can teach anyone anything. But I was willing to help out, and that's kind of how I started. And it was very weird. I was very self-conscious about it because I didn't really know that I could teach anyone anything that I was, actually doing. But what I learned a lot about myself. Trying teaching out, because I had to now verbalize what I was doing for a lot of things that might have came a little easier to me, as a dancer, and then just kind of doing it and picking things up, having to now give that to someone else. It's a completely different animal,
Yeah.
right? So I began to really try to break down and understand what I was doing.
No, that's they say it's probably one of the best ways to learn something is to teach it, correct?
Yeah, I feel like teachers are really, always students first.
They should be.
You know?
They should always be. I know a common thing that I'm always hearing from the people I'm interviewing is that they never felt ready to teach. Like it was always just kind of thrust upon them.
Yeah, I feel like that's pretty consistent with a lot of people.
I'm curious, for people right now who I guess they don't feel ready to do something. What could you say to them who are just hesitating?
Honestly, I would say what I probably wouldn't do.
Okay.
Because I tend to be very careful before doing things or jumping into things. But I would say just, if you have a thought of something that you want to do, don't get in your own way. Just go for it.
Yeah.
And I don't practice what I preach all the time, but I'm kind of working on that.
Yeah. I definitely understand that, man. I definitely do. I want to talk about your partner, your dance partner, Jonna Blakes.
Yeah, Miss Jonna Blakes.
How did you meet her?
So we met probably 2007 here in New Orleans, just through dancing.
Okay.
Going to Copacabana, being around the same group of people. I mean, we really had, a pretty tight-knit community, especially after Katrina, just because, the reduction in amount of dancers after Katrina was pretty significant.
Okay.
So, we all went to the same place.
Right.
That was our meeting spot. So we just all just kind of got close there. And it was, she was actually in a ladies group with Tamai, who asked me to help teach her and John Tate Thibodeau, who you guys probably don't know either. And we essentially got really, really close through that process. We actually started a team called Mambo.
Okay.
So the founding members are Tamai Tunor, Jana, Blakes, John Tate Thibodeau, who's now in New York, New Jersey area.
Okay.
Oscar Ramirez, and myself.
Okay. And still going on with that?
So
I know you had some people left and everything, but
yeah. So I mean, we got together. We started performing. We put on some events here in the city and started bringing some artists from all over. We had 2 events that was called New Orleans Jam. We were really just trying to find our place in kind of like the world of salsa and make sure that people knew that, New Orleans wasn't off the map. It was a really great experience. I learned a lot. It was my first time ever performing, which was a huge, not necessarily fear that I had, but I never saw myself doing it.
Okay.
It's still something that I struggle with. It's not my passion.
Okay.
I would say my passion is social dancing.
All right, same here.
But it's definitely something that pushes me. And Jana is an amazing performer.
Okay.
Like, I could just stand there and I would look good next to her.
Okay.
But she has a really great passion for choreographing and performing. And she's pulled a lot out of me that I never thought I would be able to do. So every, kind of going from that, we, not to say separated, but everyone just kind of grew up. They had their lives going on. A couple of people moved away, ended up getting married. Jana had 2 small kids, so she was kind of focusing on her family. So it was really like 2009, 2010 we were doing that, and then we took a pretty long hiatus until about 2016. And she was poking and convinced me to start teaching again. And I learned a lot about myself through that hiatus as well. Because I feel like before, I had progressed a lot through working with them and learning from them, being around them and practicing and teaching. But during that hiatus, I feel like I got a much stronger connection to music and understanding of music. Let's say before I was more infatuated with dancing, and then I fell in love with music.
Okay.
Right. So I mean, literally, I I dance salsa, mambo, because I literally can listen to it. Like,
Okay, you enjoy the music
all day, every day.
Okay.
Like, I love discovering new music that I haven't heard, and not necessarily new music, really old music that I just haven't heard. But I really do have a passion for those musicians and composers and arrangers that prepared this really beautiful music that we interpret with our bodies.
I definitely understand. I'm curious. So you've been a performer, you've been an instructor, and you've been dancing for a while. To people who want to improve rapidly, what would you tell them? Like, join a performance team, like start teaching. How does one, get better quickly?
So I think it depends on the person.
Okay.
Right.
I guess there goes.
I do think immersing yourself.
Okay.
Just is a world of difference in your progression. Because if you're doing it, 5 nights or 5 days out of the week versus 2 days out of the week, it's going to make a huge difference whether you're training or whether you're going to class or whether you're social dancing. So, I think it's really what your goals are. I never had that true training process.
Okay.
I was in a group. But, the training aspect of it was, we had a very short time that this was kind of like really thriving and bustling.
Mm-hmm.
And, it was just like, get a performance done. We had maybe 2 or 3 routines that we had put together, but we were also focusing on teaching at the same time.
Okay.
So there wasn't this constant 3 nights a week, 4 nights a week we're training together. So really a lot of my training has come through the classes that I've taken, whether it be, weekly classes or going to congresses, taking workshops, things like that. And then tons and tons of social dancing.
Okay.
I can't express how much social dancing has an effect on your development.
Okay. I've heard that that's been a common theme as well, just how beneficial social dancing can be. Speaking on social dancing, I want to talk about your Muevalo Socials.
Yeah. So it's La Noche Caliente.
Okay.
It's once a month at 3 Keys Ace Hotel.
Okay.
And Muevalo is an amazing New Orleans-based Afro-Cuban band.
We've been, and it's a great night. It's really cool.
Yeah, they are amazing. They even throw in a little New Orleans brass band vibe into it every now and again on some of their solos. They're just an amazing group to dance to.
Mm-hmm.
So we teach a free class there. It happens once a month, every 3rd Saturday.
Okay.
We teach a free class, and what we've been trying to do is kind of switch it up. So last month I think we did cha-cha-cha. This month we're going to do New York style and Mambo. And then salsa. We like to just kind of expose people to the different styles, get them excited about dancing, and then send them out into the world to find what they're most interested in.
I'm curious, how did that start? How did you get in contact with Alof and set all that up?
So actually, it was a complete accident there
Okay.
as well.
All right.
Actually, Buku Rueda, who's a group here in New Orleans, that started probably about 4 or 5 years ago. I can't remember how long it's been. Shelly Mount, who started the group, actually, they were doing the classes and had the gig with the Ace Hotel and with Muevalo.
Okay.
And had gone to a couple of events, and it was really, really fun. But Shelly, actually, she also has a kind of travel business that brings people to Cuba and lets them experience the culture and things like that. Okay. So that's what she was really passionate about exposing Cuban culture to people here in the U.S. So she started spending a lot more time down there. So there was one time she needed a sub. She asked us to come in. She wanted us to teach cha-cha because they played a lot of cha-cha-cha. So we came in, we did a cha-cha-cha class. And then when she started to get more into spending a lot more time in Cuba, she, kind of recommended to the organizers that, hey, I really think Mambo Orleans would be a good fit for teaching the classes because we teach on2 and we teach cha-cha-cha, and the music is very kind of resonant with that, and even dancing on one, but it's the exact kind of music that we play in our classes and things like that. So
I understand that. Talking about I guess traveling overseas, I know at one point you traveled to Puerto Rico. Is that correct?
Oh yeah, I mean I've traveled a few places.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
I'm curious. So I've never been, I guess, outside the U.S. really. It's a couple places, but I'm curious how was that for you? Were you able to dance and everything? Or?
Puerto Rico was actually an amazing trip. I love Puerto Rico. It's like one of my favorite places.
Okay.
It's something about the vibe there and the people. It's just easy. Like my wife, she says it all the time. She's like, it's just something about it. It's just like you show up there and it's like you don't have a worry. Like you're just relaxed. Like
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree.
So I've been a few times. My very first time was on a cruise that left from there. My cousin got married on a cruise ship, so I didn't get to spend a whole lot of time in the city. I spent like maybe two nights there in San Juan. But I got to spend a lot of time with Puerto Ricans because the ship was full of Boricuas. And
I don't know what that is. What is a Boricua?
I'm Puerto Rican. Just another word for Puerto Rican.
Oh, okay.
Boricua, Yubarito.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, and they actually had like a bunch of like quinceañeras on the boat, like organized on the boat. So it literally was nothing but Puerto Ricans on the ship. So like they had a band every night. There was dancing every night. So it was like really awesome. And I met actually a few people there. Didn't speak Spanish at all, but a few of them spoke a little English. But they saw that I enjoyed dancing, and they just invite you in.
That's awesome.
Crazy.
That's awesome.
But my other times I've gone, we just gone straight on vacation.
Okay.
And it's just a lovely place. I did. I have danced times that I've gone there. Gone to a couple places. New Yorican Cafe. Everybody's got to do that at some point, right? And I love the vibe of that place, even though it's like super small, but it's like this just kind of like very just kind of hole in the wall-ish type place, and like just the energy in there with the live music is like amazing.
So I've never heard of it. Okay, it's,
New Yorican Cafe. It's in Old San Juan.
Okay,
you gotta check it out.
Okay, what part are you from, though?
Rio Piedras, which is within San Juan.
Okay. And,
Yeah.
And so you say you traveled. Where else have you traveled to besides Puerto Rico?
I've been to Dominican Republic.
Okay.
I've been to Costa Rica.
Oh.
I've been to a few places throughout the Caribbean, like Jamaica and Grand Cayman, Belize. I've been to Europe once. Went to Greece on our honeymoon.
Okay, nice. That's awesome.
So yeah, I'm
well-traveled man.
I'm trying to get some more places. So we'll be going to Curacao soon, hopefully. Hopefully. We've scheduled our trip, but we'll be going to Curacao. Excited about that.
I'm curious, of the places you've been, which had the best dancing?
Well, I mean, it's definitely got to be Puerto Rico.
Okay.
The only other place I've really danced was Costa Rica, and it was a little tough there. I was there with my friend who I used to practice with because she lived there for maybe like a year and a half doing ESL.
Okay.
So she was teaching English as a second language, and I went to visit her, and she like brought me out to a club, and primarily in Central America, the big thing is cumbia. Oh. So they played some salsa songs, but not a ton. Okay. But if you go to the Caribbean side of Costa Rica, they play a lot more.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, which we didn't make it over to, but she was like, yeah, there's a lot more dancing on the Caribbean side versus the Pacific side.
What was the Dominican Republic like?
Oh, Dominican Republic was cool. It was one of those trips where you're on a resort. So we did get off the resort to see some things. We went and did zip lining, which was cool. Yeah. Of course, I actually really love to dance traditional bachata.
All right, yeah.
So, I mean, it's Dominican.
Yeah, you got to.
Yeah.
I mean, even on the resort, they have a club that they're
Yeah.
playing. Anthony Santos and Kiko Rodriguez,
No, all right.
Roland Rodriguez. Just all the greats.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so where were you born, Dom?
I was born in Puerto Rico.
Okay.
Yeah, but I don't know. It's kind of weird. Like, I cannot say I'm truly Puerto Rican or that I'm truly Dominican because I was born in Puerto Rico from Dominican parents.
Okay, right, okay.
So,
I thought
yeah.
you were born in Dominican Republic. Okay.
No,
Oh, okay, I got you.
almost.
Almost.
So all of her energy is Boricua.
All right.
Like,
Yeah.
yeah, because you just grew up all around.
So true,
it.
yeah.
Yeah, but then so even though I was born and raised in Puerto Rico, like I'm not. I don't know. I didn't pick up salsa in Puerto Rico. That did not work for me. So when I moved here, is when I started learning salsa. So at home we dance bachata. That's mostly what we dance. So that's so close to me. Bachata's what's up.
Okay.
But yeah, it's funny because you asked about our primary dance on two. But I get this from a lot of people that I dance with now, just because there's so many new people. Obviously, apparently I'm like an old relic now in the scene after all this time. And I was dancing with someone the other night at a social, and we were dancing on one, and she was like, "Oh, I thought you were on two person."
Okay.
And it's crazy how this image has
Right.
been shrouded around me that I'm on two dancer, but I love to dance on one. I love bachata, specifically traditional.
Okay, sure enough.
Traditional bachata, and bachata was one of those things that we used to dance in the clubs, and that's how I kind of got my passion for it. And we didn't have classes back then, so I just learned from watching Dominicans.
Okay.
Right? Going in some spots. We went to a spot on the West Bank one time. I think it was called Tipicos. I don't even know if it's around anymore. But it was right off of on the other side of the Huey P. It was one of those spots that they serve food and they have tostones and all kinds of stuff. And they were playing just that gritty,
Okay.
country, middle of nowhere type.
Okay.
bachata.
Okay. Sure enough.
So I enjoy and love and teach much more than just
I understand that.
salsa on two. Cha-cha-cha is another kind of passion of ours. Mainly because it's funky as hell.
Okay.
I love the music.
Cha-cha is an offshoot of Mambo. Mambo, correct?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, it is. So it's very connected. It, like Mambo, is very connected to the percussion. And the change up in the percussion for cha-cha-cha is what creates that, that triple step movement.
Okay.
So it's an amazing music type with a lot of subsets, like Boogaloo, Guajira.
I know about these.
There's also some charanga, so it's something that's seen as an old dance,
Okay, I understand that.
It's your grandparents' dance.
Yeah, I understand that.
But I posted something one time, and I was like, you know what? It is an old folks dance, and guess what? Your grandparents are cooler than you. Because it is funky.
Okay.
Funky. And I think what happens is that people equate it more with the ballroom side of cha, right? And what that has developed into. But it's a very, very funky, groovy, grimy type of dance. Now, it has songs and elements where you can be very, proper and very, controlled, but some of the music is just straight down funky.
Okay.
And no one really teaches it a lot, or that side of it. And what I find is I'll go and ask people to dance, and nobody wants to dance cha-cha-cha.
Okay.
And it's not, because they don't like it. It's just they're kind of afraid. They don't feel like they know it.
Yeah.
So we really have been trying to insert classes or workshops
to
expose it more to people.
I definitely understand that.
Yeah. So we we were trying to do something for a while. I need to start doing it again, but it's our hashtag and cha-cha
Yeah,
renaissance.
okay.
Like the revert.
Mm-hmm.
But it hasn't gone anywhere. It's just,
Yet. Let's say that yet. Because I think here in New Orleans, that is something that we're missing. Like, as of right now, I mean, I'm new to the scene, fairly new to the scene, but I think we're focusing a lot on salsa, which is amazing. It's a great dance, but that's not the only Latin dance out there, right? And then, when you go to the socials, to these clubs, they're not only playing salsa. So you feel great, amazing, confident when you dance the salsa or do bachata, but then cha-cha comes on.
And the dance floor clears.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's people
funny.
still
That's
eager
exactly
to
right.
dance, but like you're saying, they just don't, they don't feel confident, and that's because we don't have that strong image here where we can go and get that cha-cha class.
And honestly, I think it's really something that's kind of nationally is pretty consistent. And honestly, I just think it's because of the evolution of the dance and the popularity of bachata and central bachata and kizomba, zouk.
I don't really see a lot of cha-cha performers. Maybe that's just me.
Yeah, well, and I think it's just because people aren't doing it as much.
Yeah, okay.
But when I was traveling and going to congresses, really a lot of the well-known performers and instructors would do cha-cha. They would do cha-cha performances. And still to this day, I'll follow them on Facebook and stuff. They're still pushing it. But, there's been an evolution of new dancers and, just growing of the community. So it's bringing tons and tons of more people in. So I just think it's taken a little bit of a backseat. It hasn't gone anywhere, but, it's still present, but it doesn't have that prominence. I can remember going to congresses. Back when I was going to congresses, the congresses ended at 2:00 in the morning. Right? It's crazy. I don't know how these people do like 6, 7 o'clock.
Oh my God, you dance. The ones that I've been to, you dance till sunrise.
Oh man, that's crazy.
Yes, and you sleep like 2 hours and go back to the workshop.
Oh wow.
But back then, it was primarily salsa, and then they would throw 2-3 cha-chas every couple sets. More people would take breaks during that time, but there would still be a good bit of people dancing. You would not hear a bachata until like 1:30, 1:45, like the last 15, 20 minutes.
Okay.
This was back in the day when we were hip-hopping.
Okay.
Bachata, you know what I mean?
Right.
So, it didn't have that much of a prominence back then. There only used to be one room, the grand ballroom.
Okay.
You would dance all the salsa the entire night, have a few cha-chas mixed in, and you might get an aventura at the end of the night.
Okay.
So, I think with the popularity and progression of all these other styles, it's just more, there's more that has to be shared. So cha-cha has basically kept its cult following, right?
Right.
But I don't know. I feel like there should be a resurgence in it.
Yeah.
I'm curious. What else do you dance besides salsa and bachata? Anything else?
That's it. Salsa, bachata, cha-cha-cha. I actually do not know any of like the newer or let's say new, but it's getting prominence now. Kizomba. I don't know any Kizomba or zouk.
Is not interested or?
I did try a class. Me and my wife tried a
Okay.
class. And it's cool. It's just it didn't resonate.
I understand.
And I think it's really just I'm driven by the music.
Okay.
Mostly. So I dance salsa and cha-cha-cha and bachata primarily because I fall in love with the songs.
Yeah, I understand that.
And I like listening to some of the Kizomba songs that are coming out, kind of like the more I guess earthy ones is more like boom,
Okay.
boom, boom, not necessarily like the remixes and things like that. But it's just I don't know, it just hasn't resonated with me yet. Not that I say I will never be interested in doing it. I actually feel bad a lot of times because we don't have as many Kizomba leads here in New Orleans, and every once in a while somebody, a follower will come up to me and say like, "Do you want to dance Kizomba?" And I was like, "I'm sorry, I literally don't know
I
anything.
understand that.
But yeah, just primarily just those dances, and I've actually danced some. Actually taking classes now, West Coast swing.
Okay, what you think about that?
So I actually really like West Coast
Okay.
swing. It was something that was suggested to me because it's similar to dancing on 1 and 2. It's a slotted dance.
Yeah, right. Okay.
So you're dancing on the line. So a lot of the concepts just of leading and following are similar. What the biggest difference is the count. The count.
I don't know anything about swing. So what is it?
Yeah. So in West Coast swing, there are 2 counts that you can switch back and forth from. There's a 6 count, and then there's an 8 count. And it's counted basically like they don't like to use really numbers because there's like no starting into it, right? So it looks like you're floating across the floor because you can't really tell where the count starts and ends. So they basically say if it's a 6 count, you go step, step, triple step, triple step.
Okay.
Right? And or like 1, 2, 3, and 4, 5, and 6.
Okay.
And then the 8 count is actually similar to cha-cha, where you're going 1, 2, 3, and 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8.
It is, yeah,
right?
Yeah.
So it was something that me and my wife wanted to try, and we kind of like dig it.
Okay,
you know?
that's awesome.
One of the big things is that at a lot of the socials, they would play like old school, like 90s R&B. And I mean, like I said, I'm driven by the music. Like that's, my childhood, right? So like hearing some of those songs and being able to dance to it, just really inspired me to dance West Coast swing because I was really connecting with the music, And really West Coast swing, you kind of dance it to anything, but a lot of DJs really like that 90s kind of R&B and kind of New Jack swing type stuff. Yeah.
Okay. I imagine the New Orleans is definitely the city for swing and all that, though, right?
Yeah. I mean, literally, you talk about you can go social dancing any night of the week if you're a traditional swing, Lindy Hop, Balboa dancer, because all of the jazz bands. So you literally have your pick of the litter on Frenchman Street any night of the week. So we have the swing community is really huge here.
Yeah, I definitely understand that. I want to switch gears for you real quick. I want to talk about your cats. How many cats do you have?
So I have. That's an interesting question. So technically, I would say that we have seven babies.
Okay. Okay.
We have 4 cats, indoor cats, that we've collected over the past couple of years. And when we moved to our new house, it actually came with 3 outdoor cats.
Okay.
So our neighbor actually was taking care of 2 outdoor cats who were, you would call them feral, but you would feed them. They basically just live outside the house.
You feed it, they're going to stay, right?
Yeah. And that's like their territory.
All right.
They keep like the other cats out. But there was another cat that got lost from an owner and found its way there, and they kind of accepted him, the other 2 cats. Or maybe he like muscled his way into it. But we ended up, he had a collar, so we ended up contacting the owner. The owner actually wasn't living here in New Orleans. So she was moving back and forth between New Orleans and California, and he got lost the last time that she was here.
Okay.
He was indoor-outdoor. He used to leave in and go out. But,
okay.
He doesn't travel well, so I think he was kind of like medicated.
Okay.
He was kind of still kind of feeling the effects of that, and he got lost. So we ended up calling her and everything, and, she's still kind of back and forth between California. But we really got attached to him.
Okay.
And the last time she was in New Orleans, we ended up meeting with her, and we kind of, said, we know you're traveling back and forth, but, we definitely would take care of him if you're willing to let us. And, I think just with everything she had going on, she had other cats in California, and she allowed us to keep them and take care of them. So
okay, cool.
We have 7. The indoor cats are Toulouse, Trixie, Stevie Wonder. And Stevie Wonder has a eye condition.
I saw him on your page,
And Sweet Pea is our littlest one. and we actually got her. She was a feral cat that my wife actually volunteers.
It's SPCA, right?
With trapping, and she was one that they trapped, they spayed her. But some of the neighborhoods aren't that safe for them, especially if the neighbors are like complaining.
Right.
And she was just super friendly. Usually they're like really, really scared when they're in the cage or the trap. And all she wanted to do was be touched.
Okay.
Right? So, literally, kind of got a text from my wife saying, "Hey, there's a cat on our patio. I think I want to try to find her a home." Started out that way, but we kind of fell in love with her.
That's awesome.
So we ended up keeping her.
Yeah, I understand.
So the outdoor cats are the two black cats that came with the house, Baby Girl and Buddha.
Okay.
And Taliesin is the orange cat that lives outside of the house.
Okay, sure enough.
Yeah, you did your homework.
I'm trying to, man. You actually got a little family, man. Shucks.
Yeah, that's my little family. Those are my babies. I take care of them every day.
I got you.
They calm me down when I come home.
Okay, I understand that. I want to ask you this. You've dancing for a while now. What lessons have you learned from dancing that you're able to translate to your everyday life?
Communication.
Okay.
Yeah. So, dancing, we're basically communicating with our words.
Right, yeah.
Right? It's a conversation between two people. So it's all about being clear in what you're saying.
Okay.
And listening.
Definitely.
Right? And that's something that you have to apply in everyday life, communicating with, your peers, your coworkers, your friends, your family. If you're not clear and if you don't listen, there's much more ability for conflict, right?
Yeah, definitely.
And if you're dancing, you're not clear, you don't listen.
Confusion.
There's much more confusion and ability for injuries, conflict, having a reputation that you don't care about the follow or you're just concerned about yourself. Yeah. So I think that's something that definitely translates well.
Mm-hmm. I definitely understand that. I'm curious, what about you, Dom? Anything that translates?
That's a good one. I think, for me, it's just to trust.
Okay.
To trust that person that I'm dancing with, that, that one, as a follow, that is going to take care of me, in a way that, like, I'm not going to run into the wall or something, or, you know what I mean? And, just to trust that person, while I'm on the dance floor for those 2-3 minutes where I don't have to be fully conscious about myself.
Okay. So,
I can kind of bring that to when I'm walking down the street or going somewhere or meeting someone new.
Okay, I definitely understand that.
So that, I can say that. What about you?
Lessons that I've learned. I would say confidence. When you're a confident lead, I think it leads to a better dance. Instead, when you're just unsure, because then you don't lead it proper. Yeah. So, and that just translates to just being confident in life, Yeah.
Yeah, I would say confidence definitely leads to clarity.
Okay, exactly.
Right? You have to be confident and clear in your motion. If you second guess it, your follower's going to feel that you're second guessing, and they're going to second guess what you're trying to communicate to them. Right?
So true.
Right, and that's definitely something that you can apply in life.
Definitely. There's
definitely situations where outside of dance where I felt like if I was more confident in myself, I wouldn't have a limit on what I could do, or I could reach goals that that I would normally get in my own way on achieving. Yeah, if not having that confidence.
I understand that. Yeah. I'm curious. I know you're trying to build up the On2 scene, the cha-cha scene, the whole Muevalo. What defines success for you? Like, what'll make you say, I've accomplished this? Or...
I would say, and it's not necessarily style based.
Okay, I get you. Understand.
I would say success for me is really having having students or anyone who kind of interacts with me or comes to my class or asks me a question, really being able to, for me to clearly communicate, some knowledge that I have, and having them really get it, and apply it, and come back to me and say, "Man, I got that." Or seeing that look on their face, when they understand something, and I help them along that journey. I'm really just about allowing people to fully enjoy themselves while they're dancing. Right, and I think what contributes to that is having a very solid foundation in fundamentals, to where you're confident in all of those movements. You can clearly communicate it so that you and your partner can enjoy the dance without stress, without anxiety. I think that's the goal. And I think that's what creates great dancers. That gives them the inspiration to do more, to go to other classes, to to get information from other instructors, to improve themselves, to further improve their enjoyment, right? So it's not for the sake of, just getting better. It's truly allowing yourself to enjoy what you're doing. Now, you can completely enjoy what you're doing without, further, developing yourself. I've even gotten, felt times in my life where I was kind of stagnant, and didn't take classes, didn't learn anything new. But I never lost that joy when I was dancing. I could do a whole song, right? And if I'm digging that song and my partner's enjoying it, that's all that matters, right? But, having a passion for what you're doing, if you're excited about it, you're going to want to learn more and things like that, right? So I really see success as, just making sure that I can give something to the community that they really can keep and use and make their own. And they feel that it's something of value.
I feel you're saying just be an effective teacher. I definitely understand that. I want to switch it up on you again, all right?
Yeah, no worries.
I want to ask you these series of rapid fire questions, okay?
Okay.
All right, bet. So I want you to try. I want you to try and answer these, and we'll say 10 seconds or less. All right.
10 seconds or less. All right.
All right. You ready?
Okay.
Let's start it out. If you can meet anyone, dead or alive, who would it be?
Hector Little.
Okay.
Oh, that's a good one.
All right, favorite thing to do outside of dancing?
Jeez. Man, that's a tough one.
Okay.
Relaxing on the couch watching movies.
All right, sure enough. Why did the chicken cross the road?
To not get eaten.
All right, sure enough. What is the best gift you've ever received?
Love.
Hey, wonderful. How good of a dancer is your wife?
Amazing.
All right, awesome. Okay.
We actually met dancing.
Okay.
So,
we'll get into that then. If you could have one superpower, what would it be?
Teleportation.
Hey, nice. What is one item you could never live without?
Okay. That's a tough one. I failed on that one. I mean, I should say my wife, obviously, but it was just that one tripped me up.
All right, okay, no worries. As a child,
not really an item. You're not an item.
As a child, what did you want to be growing up?
An architect.
Okay, nice. All right. What advice would you give your 25-year-old self?
Stop thinking and just do.
Okay. What is the best piece of advice you've ever received?
probably just believing in myself and being confident in who I am.
Okay. I'm going to ask you the contradictory to that. What is the worst piece of advice you've ever received?
Huh. I don't ask a lot of people for advice.
Okay.
So that's,
And this way we could just pass it, skip it.
Maybe, I don't know. Yeah, that's a hard one.
All right, I understand. Yeah. No, I understand. We'll check it out. What is your favorite dance style?
That's actually, well, I mean, it's Mambo.
Mambo, okay. Sure enough.
It's Mambo, but there's subsets, you know.
Okay. You're stuck on an island for 5 days, and you can only bring 3 things. What are they?
Stuck on an island for 5 days, only 3 things.
Yes, sir.
A device that plays music.
Okay.
That, you know, I can access at any time. Sangria. And a Cubano.
Okay. All right.
You're gonna have a good time on that island.
That was the last question, man. You did perfect, man. That was a perfect score. I want to say I think I asked all my guests this, and I think the best answer I received was a raft. I think that's definitely the best
It's
answer.
only 5 days though.
All right, well, true. All right, sure enough. So yeah, I can say you did perfect, man. I want to ask you this: for beginners who feel like they're stuck in like a beginner's rut, what advice could you give to them?
Beginners who feel like they're stuck in a rut. One, social dance more.
Okay.
Take opportunities to, if you have a friend who dances, ask them to practice.
Okay.
Like, I learned a lot just, you know, because when you're going social dancing, you're trying to enjoy yourself. You know, sometimes it's like, just with everything that's going on, it's a little bit hard to focus on things. But if you practice with someone, you know, just at your place.
Yeah. No
and
pressure.
y'all want to work on, you know, one specific thing and drill it over and over.
Yeah.
Like, you're both there for that, right?
Exactly.
So it's a way for you to work on it. It's a way for them to, you know, also communicate with you about, you know, what might be working, what might not be working. And just, you know, try different things out. You know, try different instructors, try different styles, see, you know, what might resonate. You know, really, like, with all these different styles and all these different teachers that we have, you gain something, you know, new and different from each one of them that you can then, you know, put in your toolbox, right, of things that you can use. And then sometimes, you know, you may find a teaching style that works, you know, that resonates with you, with the way that you learn. Yeah. You know, sometimes it's just, you know, opens you up to something new that kind of sparks a new interest or something like that. So really just, you know, I would say social dancing, practice on your own with friends who have the same interests as you, and then try different things out, try different classes.
Okay. I can understand that. And what about for intermediate level people? What does it take for them to take that next step to advanced?
So I always get caught up with the whole level conversation. Okay. Because, you know, it's only relative to, like, the person dancing or the teacher giving the class. Okay. Like, what is intermediate, what is beginner, what's advanced beginner.
I understand that.
But I feel like in order for you to take a step up, you have to be 100% confident and comfortable in your fundamentals.
Okay.
To where it's second nature. Yeah. And this is something that you never stop working on, right? Like, there's times that, you know, I notice myself in the social, I'm like, that was a horrible lead, crossbody lead. Like, you know, you can get lazy and get, you know, pick up bad habits, things like that. So I always try to take the time to focus on fundamentals and make that a priority as far as that's essential to dancing, right? And once it's second nature, you can pick up more complicated leads, follows, patterns, footwork.
Okay.
When you have that comfortability in those fundamentals, because there's only so many moves, right?
Yeah.
You can only turn so many directions.
Exactly.
Right? You only have 2 feet.
Yeah.
Right? Unless you're breakdancing, like,
right.
you're not going to use any other part of your body on the floor, right? So really it's just variations on fundamental moves is what advanced and intermediate and advanced patterns and footwork are.
Okay.
Right? So they're just different ways of responding to the music, but they all have a basis in those fundamental moves. So if you can pop it off, the very basic move without questioning, you understand the mechanics of it, right? When you see something that looks completely different, but is the same, mechanics of lead and follow, you'll pick it up much easier, right? And it won't be like, oh my goodness, that looks so crazy, it's so different. It's like, no, that's actually a crossbody lead with a turn. It just looks different.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
I understand that. I definitely understand that. When I say the word musicality, what does that mean to you?
Musicality, for me, just means it's really you enjoying and being connected to the music. Now, there's a technical aspect to it where, you're basically using your body as an instrument. Okay. Right?
Yeah.
So whatever that music is telling you to do, you're doing. Right? Now, somebody could do that. The music could be doing one thing, and whatever they do may look completely different from the music, but that's their interpretation.
Exactly.
Right?
That's what it is.
But when it comes to kind of deeply connected, technical connection to the music, it's listening to songs and feeling and understanding the feelings of those instruments, what they're communicating, and having it translate to your movement.
Okay.
So songs aren't just 1, 2, 3, 5, 6, 7, or 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, in bars of music, right?
Yeah.
There are all these, rises and falls, push and pulls, changing of counts, long drawn out notes, quick sharp notes.
Yeah.
Right? So if you think about a musician who, takes you on this journey musically, with what they're expressing, how they're really kind of jazzing up what could be a simple, bass line or whatever. As a dancer, you taking that and translating that through your body, right? So as that music rises and falls, your movements, reflect that.
Yeah.
And, it doesn't necessarily mean that you have to hit everything that you hear in the music, but it's just, really trying to express the feeling, right, of it and what you're feeling there, right? There may be something that you hear below the surface that you're expressing that's slower, that's more drawn out, that gives your dance dimension, right, versus just 100-meter sprint, constantly going.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Not definitely. It kind of lends to your own personal style, right?
Yeah.
Right? Yeah, definitely.
And it's all unique to you, to your individual
exactly
self.
how you express yourself. So I mean, that was a great answer. I really appreciate that. I want to ask you this: what upcoming events do you have going on? I know you're teaching and everything.
Okay, so
feel free to plug yourself.
We have a new class session coming up this Wednesday, March 13th at Dance Quarter Uptown. So we have our Salsa Fundamentals on 2 courses, level 1 and level 2. So level 1, beginner, what we call beginner, but really it could be for anyone who, whether you haven't danced before, interested in learning salsa or mambo, or for a dancer who's been dancing, and want to kind of transition to that understanding on 2, or if you want to focus on your fundamentals.
Okay.
That level 1 class is catered towards really handing those fundamentals over. Now, those fundamentals translate from on 1 to on 2, but we just do it musically in an on 2 format, and we talk about that connection to the music dancing on 2. So we primarily do that very in depth in the first class.
Mm-hmm.
So even if you just like want to know what it's all about, you know, like what is this on 2 thing? Why is it different? We cover that in the first class. So if you want to drop in and just check that out, you know, you're more than welcome. The level 2 class is in a continuation of the first class. So it's still fundamental base, but we start to mix in a little more variations of patterns, more footwork. I still consider them kind of fundamental, you know, steps. So level 1 is at 7 o'clock, level 2 at 8 o'clock. You can check out our Facebook page, Mambo Orleans. We have links to registration there. But you could also go to NOLADancing.com, which is Dance Quarter's website.
Okay.
Or you could just show up day of class. So, yeah, we're excited about that series of classes. We have the Ace Hotel this Saturday, the 16th.
Okay.
We'll be teaching a free class at 9 o'clock. We'll be doing Salsa on 2. Not going too deep into the understanding of the music, but the general steps is really about getting people moving and being able to, you know, try what they learned to a really, really awesome band, Muevalo. Burnt Rose and Margie Perez. They're amazing. They're an amazing group. I can't talk enough about them. I enjoy them every single time. So, yeah, that's what we have going on in the short term. I mean, our class is an 8-week session, progressive session. Okay. So we'll be really excited to have some new folks in the class if you want to come check it out. And then we'll have some other stuff coming up in the long term. Okay. We've been looking at a workshop series that kind of hyper focused on certain aspects of dancing. So hopefully in the next couple months we'll be kind of releasing that and getting some dates on the calendar for a workshop series. Also looking at doing possibly like an annual social.
That'd be real cool.
I know annual sounds like it's like once a year, but like, you know, we're not promoters. We're not, you know, we find that when we do classes and we have a class group that, you know, I find out it's hard to get a lot of people to go social dancing. Okay. Because it's, you know, it can be intimidating, you know, to a lot of people.
To newer people.
So what we've been trying to do is kind of make that more comfortable for our students. So, you know, we do like a mini social at the end of our class session. Okay, but everyone doesn't always like translate and kind of move on to like the weekly socials and things like that. So I do think it would be good for us to host something that, you know, all of our students will feel comfortable coming to, but then the rest of the community, you know, could participate in, and our students could be exposed to those dancers and things like that. So
I definitely understand that. Yeah.
I would need that.
I'm curious, are you performing anytime soon?
Not at the moment. Okay. We don't have anything on the books right now.
I understand
Not
that.
working on any choreographies right now, but who knows after hearing this, Jana might
I do want to say
wheels turning.
I do want to say that I definitely want to have her on the show. I would love to have her. If you could talk to her about that.
Yeah,
That'd
definitely.
be awesome. And I do want to say, I saw you and her perform just on Facebook, you know, a couple of videos you have. You guys are good. Great performance. Seriously, those are wonderful.
It's all her.
Okay. Yeah,
it's all her. She's amazing. I mean, she's an amazing dancer and performer.
Okay.
So, it would be a really great interview with her.
I would love to have her on.
Probably much more interesting than mine.
This is great, man. This is great. I want to, just to wrap it up, I want to ask, how can people get in touch with you? I know you said it before.
So, yeah, you can reach out to us on Facebook through Mambo Orleans Facebook page. I should be possibly setting up an Instagram account soon. You know, I'm an old head, so I don't have Instagram yet.
That's a great idea.
So I'll hopefully be communicating that at some point. You could also, if you just want to email, you could reach me at salseroray@gmail.com. It's SALSERORAY@gmail.com. Oh, sorry, 84. salseroray84@gmail.com.
Okay, awesome. Anything else?
Peace and cross body leads.
Hey,
Thank you guys for having me. This is an amazing format. I can't wait to see what else you guys have coming out.
I really appreciate that. Yeah, man. I want to say just thank you for coming out, taking time out your day to come talk to us, man. We really appreciate that.
Yeah, no worries. Thank you for having me.
Any last words?
It was a pleasure to have you here. It was a pleasure, and I'm looking forward to seeing you on the dance floor again.
Yeah,
Save me a dance.
Look, I tell you, Francesca, man, we see each other and we're like, all right, we got to get a dance. And then she disappears. I never could find her again. Okay. So I'm always on a mission. I'm like, the next time I see you, I'm just going to grab you.
Yeah, and, just pull me.
Hold you until a song comes on.
Yes. Feel free to do that. I'll catch a dance next time I see you.
I like it. But yeah, I think that'll do it for episode 10, Two Left Feet Podcast. Like I said, thank you so much, Raymond.
Thank you guys. 2 Left Feet.
Hey.